Hey everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everyone, Cantonese Cat here. 5 buys for April 2024. I want to go through my number one is Cypher, ticker symbol CIFR. This is a Bitcoin mining company. The whole rationale is this. I already own a significant number of miners. I already have a pretty happy position on all of them. I just still happen to think that it's still an opportunity to buy at this moment. I own majority in 3 positions, which is CleanSpark, Mara, and Bitfarms. I also have a smaller position in some of the miners that are a lot more smaller market caps, which is Irene and TerraWolf. And I was kind of looking through, I still think that April, at least for the first couple of weeks, looks like there may still be a lot of opportunities to get some buys into it. But I already have a pretty sizable position that I'm happy with. I'm looking through the technicals and the other miners, trying to find out if there's another one that has really sparked my interest. And Cypher is one of them. I'm going to go through the technicals here a little bit. And also just fundamentally, I think that this is still a pretty decent fundamental story. They have about 1,400 Bitcoin that are hodling. Their market cap is a little bit mid-sized compared to their peers. They're not quite as big as some of the 3 to 5 billion market cap like CleanSpark and Mara. They are a little bit smaller, and they're also not as small and as illiquid as TerraWolf or Irene. They're just kind of somewhere in the middle, and they do have a lot of growth. They're growing their revenue. They're growing their hash rate according to their guidance, especially for the rest of the year in 2024. There's a significant amount of short interest. I think as far as last month, I think the short interest was up to around like 18%. So there are a lot of things they're kind of going for, even though I think that's... I'm not really sure why these miners have such a big short interest when the technicals are looking a lot better and better over time, but that's what it is. So when moves happen, they could happen quite explosively, but they just haven't really happened for another whole year. This is the monthly chart of Cypher. You might just take out this Ichimoku indicator over here. You can see that price has just kind of really gone sideways for about months, number 1, 2, 3, 4, about 10 months, or you can even argue that we started right here. Price just kind of went sideways for about a whole year. If you look at the volume shelf, kind of show you that there's a significant amount of stock that's being traded over here at this range that you see is range bound from around, like 5.6, 5.7, somewhere up here on the larger, top part of the volume shelf. And the bottom part of the volume shelf is around like $2, 2.2, somewhere around there. It's been ranging up and down here for about a whole year now. And it's kind of making a little bit more of like a little higher high type situation. And it looks like it's pushing above the volume shelf around here. The buy volumes over the last 4 months has been quite big, whereas the sell volume over the last 4 months have been smaller. It does look like it's about to break out. The whole chart basically just looks like a big giant cup right here. It looks like it's forming a little bit like a smaller cup over here. And this whole thing actually just looks like it's been a big accumulation pattern that is just right underneath this range right here. It did test this range here back in October 2021. It bounced and then it just kind of broke down, and then since then it's just been forming a big giant cup underneath of it, and now it's maybe forming a little bit of a smaller cup and trying to break above this range up here. The longer the time spent trying to break above of it, I think the more powerful the move is going to be. There is a very, very good chance where once this range breaks above, it can hit like $10 in a hurry. And this could happen within like a couple months or so, if it does happen, which is not crazy to imagine because price was as low as 37 cents, and it bounced all the way up to about $1.60 just within 2 months. So it's actually not hard to imagine what the consolidation, once it breaks out, how far it's going to go. I'm going to add a little bit more indicators here to kind of show you what I'm thinking. The first indicator I always like to do is the Bollinger Bands. And you can see a Bollinger Band is expanding up and down. And the Bollinger Band, because this is a monthly chart, it comes with the 20-month moving average. And the 20 moving average has basically just been forming a cup like this. It's been serving as support to support price. Price has spent about 11 months at the upper part of the Bollinger Band, forming a very, very nice bull trend. And I expect this bull trend to continue because the 20-month moving average really started pointing up since November. And it's been slowly trying to eat away a lot of the supply that's going on around here. Underneath about 550. It's just been eating a lot of supply over time. And as the moving average continues to move up, I think it's going to continue to serve as support. If it needs it, it may not need it. Price right now has been kind of hugging the upper Bollinger Band for quite some time. So far this month, it's only been about 5 days, got rejected from the upper Bollinger Band down back here below. It is getting back to these big giant volume shelves over here. Could it go lower? Potentially. I don't have any problems with that. But so far, this looks like it's a pretty decent longer term bull trend that can last for anywhere from 12 to 24 months moving forward once it breaks out. And things could happen pretty fast once it does. The other thing I want to show you in terms of why I think this is a favorable spot to buy is if you look at the Ichimoku cloud. So first of all, this stock hasn't really been around for that long. It's just started on December 2020. So this really hasn't been around for too long for you to really get the actual Ichimoku cloud. What you end up getting is like a fraction of the Ichimoku cloud right down here. And what you're seeing here is that there are two lines. One is the Tenkan line right here, which is basically a, how you say that? It's a moving range. If you look at the calculator, basically what this line does is it's over the last 9 period. You take the high, you take the low, and you average it out. That's basically, it's like a moving period average, if you will. It's a pretty steady way to look at price. To me, it gives you a much better picture than just using these random moving averages. If you look at the Tenkan, you can see that a very important thing has happened. You want to see during a bull market, you want to see the Tenkan flip from being resistance to support. Over here, it looks like it was starting to do that. It looks like it was kind of breaking above that Tenkan line, the red line right over here. Looks like it was about to break above that. Back tested, found support. Looks like it was about to run, right? Nope. Got a lot of resistance over here around the $5 range. End up beating around here. End up hugging the Tenkan for about 10 months or so. And was not really able to find a direction until last month when it broke above it again. It looks like this one we're just simply back testing it right now. And so far the back test seems like it's passing. Could it fail? Could it go back down? Sure, there's always that possibility, but the Tenkan is rising. And rising averages, rising support generally serves as a pretty decent support. So far it's finding support there. No guarantee it's going to do that in the future for the rest of the month, depending on how it goes, especially when CPI is just around the corner next Wednesday. There are plenty of support, right? This volume shelf that already has tested. Could spend yet another month in addition to the last 12 months around this range. Sure, that's always a possibility. But it looks like it's really trying to break above this whole shelf right here and did a little bit of back test on the top part of this shelf. And so far it's finding support. It's right at the Tenkan. The Tenkan is rising. It also had a Kijun line over here, which is a little bit lagging. Instead of doing 9 periods, this is an average from the top and the bottom price over 26 periods. So this is lagging. When the lead line crosses over the lag line, you have a bullish cross right here that happened a couple of months ago. That happened back in January. When you have bullish cross and when price is above both Tenkan and Kijun, to me that's favorable. It doesn't always have to do that. I mean, obviously it can break down, but I like to lean bullish a little bit on support, especially when price already kind of bounced for a whole year, right around this range over here, and it's starting like it's making some pretty constructive price action, breaking out and then back testing and some of these things over here. So this is just the monthly. If you also look at the Fintel.io data, you can see that there is supposedly back in March and April is a significant increase in institutional buying. Now, to be mindful, these institutional buying is not, no, it's not just like BlackRock, it's not just like Vanguard. There are also a lot of ETFs that have also incorporated this stock. Yes, there's more attention being paid to this, to the mining industries. There's also a lot of ETF that's also allocating a lot of money and basically buying Cypher as a part of their portfolio as well. So not all of this is going to be reflective as like big institution, like if we think traditionally speaking, but a lot of this is actually ETF exposure. But regardless, there's still a lot of fun kind of rolling into Cypher, and there was a significant change over in March, and as far as April is concerned, there's also a spike, despite of the fact that the price have gone down. So there is a lot more ETFs, there's a lot more institutions that have been getting into this. So far, the distribution is this: they're about 40-50% is insiders, about 12%, 13% or so are actually institution, and it seems to be rising by the month. So institution is not really necessarily in it, but is still a positive sign that they're interested. I do want to show you a couple other things here too that got me a little bit more bullish here. If you look at the bull market support band, just on the weekly, it looks like it's just been hugging the bull market support band for about a whole year. About half a year. Just been oscillating around for about half a year or so. Right now we're back above it. After this oscillation, it looks like it's forming a pretty nice cup over here, complementing to this bigger cup over here, a smaller cup over here. This whole thing just basically just looks like a giant accumulation range, to be honest. There's a lot of volume that has been coming in when you have buys. You have huge buying volume. Buying volume has been significantly larger than selling volume over here. What you are seeing too is that price has kind of broken above the bull market support band. Could be kind of back testing a little bit, or you can also be back testing volume shelf that I was kind of showing you a little bit earlier. You can also be back testing this level right there. It's building some positive energy that's going to go up. The longer price stays up above the bull market support band, the more likely it is to kind of start curling up and serve as pretty decent support. And with these buying volume over here, I think there's a good chance it's going to happen. Again, once it breaks above this 5.5 range, I think it can go up to about $10 or about $9 or $10 here in a hurry. I think there's a great potential for it to do that. If you look at the Ichimoku cloud on the weekly, you can see that it's just kind of been forming a cup right here, touched the cloud, got pushed above the cloud, and right now it's just kind of back testing some of the supports down here. So overall volume's good. There's a pretty decent breakout that's happening. There's a lot of back tests. There's a lot of support underneath below, and it does look like a big accumulation range below 550. And it does look like it's been pushing a lot more touches above more often than not. There's a lot more buying pressure. There's a lot more, of this demand that you're seeing here. And it's just been eating supply up here for a very, very long time already. So this is a pretty good setup. I would say I would keep buying Cypher as long as it's less than $5. When it gets above $5, we reassess. I'm just glad, like so far I started a position on Cypher this past week. So far I'm just glad that I'm able to buy as much as I can. So this is, I'm happy as far as I'm concerned. Now, if price goes back down and tests the top of the cloud, that's also not the end of the world. If it goes down to 350 or lower, that's also not the end of the world, because so far it still looks like there's a pretty decent increase in demand. It just looks like we might need to continue to confirm support here before breaking up, which I'm okay with. It could take time. I'm okay with that, but it still looks like a pretty good setup to me. Through a lot of the indicators that I use, I'm going to be a little bit faster in terms of introducing the other ones that I want to talk about, which would include my number two. Number two is, PayPal. PayPal is a stock that I've been buying, and I've been kind of treating a lot already, and I've been buying pretty much significantly over the last, I would say around the last 6 to 12 months or so. I started a position right around here. Of course, I am at a loss, but I also just started a small position. I've been buying a lot more as it was, down over here. And I'm starting to see, and when I was buying over here, there's a big risk that it could be a falling knife, and sure enough, it just kept on falling, right? And why was it a falling knife back then? If you use some of the indicators that I use, if you look at the Bollinger Band, if you see a Bollinger Band, there's actually no confirmation that it's there's actually necessarily bottoming. One reason is because there is a very negative sloping 20-month moving average, which could potentially serve as resistance. You really want to see kind of flatten. It's really starting to do that. Before it does that, there's a good chance the price will continue to be a falling knife and try to find a bottom here. The other thing I was also seeing here too is that they finally touched the bottom, the lower Bollinger Band. This is basically like the dot-com bubble for NASDAQ. The NASDAQ actually did the exact same thing back in the days. If I just pull up NDX, I'll show you real quick. The NASDAQ all the way back in the dot-com bubble basically did the same thing. It bounced from the lower Bollinger Band, and it basically, instead of bouncing up, it bounced down to the other end of the Bollinger Band before it starts to go up again. So basically PayPal is doing a very, very similar thing where it bounced from the lower Bollinger Band to the other side and touched the lower Bollinger Band on the other side of it, found support and bounced up. Right now, this whole price action over here over the last 2.5 years, 3 years, it really started to set up a very, very nice base. And you can see the 20-month moving average. Initially, it was decelerating like crazy, and now it's initially it was accelerating downwards like crazy. Now it's starting to decelerate, and now you're starting to have some price action over here that looks like it's trying to break above. Now, it might still end up not breaking above that. That was a 20-month moving average, by the way. Sorry, that was just a mislabel from another chart that I did. But the 20-month moving average has to continue to start flattening. As long as there's a little bit of volume to kind of push it above that, and then back test as a support and spend more significant time above the on the higher end of the upper Bollinger Band, I think there's a good chance for PayPal to continue to move up because of the huge consolidation that it's already had. If you want to look at some of the other technicals, there are also a couple other things that is looking more favorable, like that's probably going to happen. Again, nothing is for sure, but it's looking like because the 20-month moving average is starting to flatten out, we can actually start challenging that. And there's a good chance that it could potentially bounce back above. Now, if you look at the Ichimoku Cloud again comes to the Tenkan and comes to the Kijun. Tenkan is the leading, Kijun is the lagging. What you're seeing here is one thing. As price went down, the Tenkan is going to serve as resistance, and it's going to push price down, 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 down. Right? Now, Tenkan is starting to decelerate its downtrend. Over the last 4 or 5 months or so, price action has basically spent time trying to challenge the Tenkan, trying to break above. Nope, nope, nope. Yes, and then back test so far. So it looks like a classic, kind of resistance flip support kind of look here. Of course, the month is still young. Of course, there's no guarantee. But so far, I like the fact that it broke above the Tenkan and then kind of back test the Tenkan as support. This is a pretty classic bullish look as far as I'm concerned. The other thing is that you can see the Kijun's quickly coming down. Looks like maybe over the next, few 2 or 3 months or so, you might end up having a bullish Tenkan Kijun cross. And if you also look at technically, if you look at the resistance for the Ichimoku Cloud, I mean, like the cloud's all the way up in triple digits. There's a potential once the cross happens for price to potentially push up over the next year or two to the bottom of the cloud and challenge the cloud. There's a good chance that it could do that. Now, if you want to look at the volume shelf, I'm just going to pick the volume shelves over here. Right now, before that, price kind of broke below this volume shelf here, which is a little bit tricky, but we're able to break back above this volume shelf. There's a good potential that, we might back test down here, which looks like it did, right? And if it found support, there's a good chance they might end up going to the next volume shelf, which is around mid-70s, around 74, 75. And there's a potential that it might end up bouncing around here a little bit too before going up, but there's no guarantee. Once, because of significant basing behavior over here, once we're able to break above this volume shelf, which again can take potentially months for it to do, you're talking all the way from like the 70s all the way up to maybe like the low 90s. Once you're able to break above this, I think resistance gets a lot easier to break afterwards, especially if you have the Tenkan Kijun cross as tailwind. I'm really buying it not because I think it's going to go to triple digit by the end of the year. I'm really buying it because I think it's going to go to triple digit by the end of next year or the year after that. This is kind of what I'm seeing, and I'm okay with that, because if you're talking about going from here, going up here, you're really talking about closer to about 60-70% gain. And there's also, and I'm also be doing a conservative estimate here too, right? Because you're talking about PayPal, who is having pretty low PE. They're increasing their revenue. They're increasing their net income. They are a pretty decent setup here in terms of even fundamental speaking, right? Because expectations have been very, very low. They significantly lowball their guidance so they can meet it. There's a new CEO in play. There is a potential chance for them to have any additional layoffs to keep their business even leaner. There's a lot of things that could, potentially improve here. Now, there's a lot of things that are not going well. For example, the margin over the last, a few years have been decreasing. Free cash flow has been decreasing. Stock-based compensation also seems like it's slightly increasing. But I would like to see them, get a little bit leaner. And if they're able to kind of fix their business model, who is to say they won't break through this volume shelf over here? If Wall Street likes what they're saying in terms of their earning numbers, if the economic conditions actually improve over time, and if rates end up dropping, which could potentially be favorable for fintech stocks like PayPal, right? And that also fits the technical here, because I do see that there's a pretty nice bullish development that's happening on a monthly here. If you look at the weekly, something else is also very interesting. It's also happening with the Ichimoku Cloud. The Ichimoku Cloud, it can serve as great resistance, but it can also serve as great support. Generally what happens is once price enter the cloud, they can end up backtesting the bottom of the cloud, going to the top, and then depending on how strong it feels, it could get rejected. Try and find some kind of support over here and bounce around the cloud potentially before going up. But if it ends up bounce from the bottom of the cloud, which is exactly what it did, right? Over the last 2 weeks, what did it do? It broke into the Ichimoku Cloud. And this week so far, it basically just bounced almost perfectly at the bottom of the cloud and found support as a resistance flip support at the bottom of the cloud, right? There's a good potential. It can potentially just keep pushing up to the upper part of the cloud over here. And you're really talking about the low 70s. It'd probably get rejected there. What happens when it gets rejected is going to try to find some other lower level support. Could it be this horizontal zone right here as support? Possibly, before it bounces out higher. As long as it finds a higher low, I don't really care. I mean, right now the trend looking like it's looking, better and better. So far, you've got a little bit of a higher low over here. Ideally, I like to see it making a little bit of a higher high. So far, it's kind of been making a little bit of equal high, but so far it's been making a little bit of a higher low. So this trend does look more like an accumulative kind of pattern. And I like the fact that price went to the cloud and back tested the cloud. And I like the fact that it's been building a lot of energy up here for quite some time. Because if you actually look at the bull market support band, and I've shown this numerous times on X, this is really the first time where the bull market support band has really started to uptrend. I don't really remember when last time the bull market support band started uptrend. It was maybe like here, before it rolled over. That's really the first time when it was uptrending. Other than that, it's just been down, 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 down. There's really been no reverse or no deceleration of this trend until the last couple of months, when it just kind of formed a very, very nice base, and it was just going sideways here. Finally, we're able to get a little bit of bullish momentum, because you can see that the bull market support band is now pointing up, almost for the first time for like 3 or 4 years, which is absolutely insane. A couple other things to look into the weekly. If you look at the 20 and 50, 20 is in orange, 50 is in blue. For the first time, I think we're getting close to a 20-50 week simple moving average SMA bullish cross over here. Once you get the bullish cross, generally things look a lot better for a longer term. Now, don't mistake the bullish cross as something that is going to be immediate, right? You can potentially have a bullish cross and price can still dump, but eventually it will go up. The bullish cross just basically means that the trend is potentially changing. It doesn't mean that the price is going to end up doing what you want to do over the next few weeks. That's just something that's very, very much of a cautionary tale. There's a 20 here pointing up, 50 here flattening. You're about to get across. 100 starts right above. There's a potential 100 is going to serve as resistance as it continues to smooth out. But whenever it starts to kind of flatten, it's not going to serve as very, very strong resistance anymore. It's probably going to end up pushing above that. So this is a very good technical setup here. I would say, remember for Cypher, I would buy as long as it's less than $5. For PayPal, I think it's a no-brainer to buy anywhere less than $70. I would probably end up keep buying this. even if it's above 70, but just very, very slowly. Now I'm going to end up buying a little bit more as long as price is as long as price is below 70. I like the setup, and I just want to be in it for the longer term. I think it's relatively risk-free because a lot of the basing that you're seeing, a lot of the indicators they're seeing, I think is relatively risk-free. One other thing is also that you also have a lot more big money coming in too, because if you see the L3, Black Cat L3 Banker Fund Flow Trend Oscillator, the inflow trend has also been going up, and you actually had a buy signal the last month. And right now you have increasing inflow coming in too. So far the trend is positive when it comes to wealth inflow. And I also like the fact that it's kind of really forming a very nice base. And we'll see where it takes us. That was number 2. Which brings us to my number 3. Number 3 is SoFi. I am buying SoFi. Anywhere less than $8, I'm very, very happy to buy. I'm probably going to end up buying SoFi all the way up to 14, but I'll probably end up buying a lot slower when it gets to 14. SoFi is doing a very, very similar thing that Cypher is doing. You remember when I was showing you about Cypher? It was forming a big giant cup, and then now it's forming a smaller cup. SoFi is doing a very, very similar thing. It had a big cup over here, and it's kind of forming a little bit of a smaller cup right around here. If you look at the daily, it's in a bear trend, but if you look at the weekly, it's actually in a bull trend. If you look at a monthly, it's also looking like it's in a bull trend too, and I'll show you why I think that is. So you just pull up the Bollinger Bands. You can see the 20-month moving average is pointing up. There's not much of a Bollinger Band expansion quite just yet, but price has spent the last 10 months in the upper part of the Bollinger Band, which basically means that it's probably going to form a pretty nice bull trend moving forward. It's spent the last month and the beginning of this month back testing the 20-month moving average. It seems like it's holding. You know why it's holding? Because it's positive sloping. And it means that it's probably going to end up being a pretty decent support level here. Form a tweezer bottom over here, forming a tweezer bottom potentially over here too. So far price looking like, pretty decent. The only thing I really didn't like about this chart is these big giant red sell candle with big volume over here. But I'm going to show you something else here in a little bit to kind of, negate that. So you see a very, very nice moving upwards, right? Another thing I also like about SoFi is that it had a bullish Tenkan Kijun cross on last month. The only problem is that price is below both the Tenkan and Kijun and actually serve resistance and push price down. Right now Tenkan is actually above Kijun, which actually means that it's technically in a bull trend, but price is way below it. But that also potentially mean that these might not serve as resistance for that much longer. Maybe over the next couple of months you can end up breaking above, because you had a bullish cross, which basically means that the lagging line here is crossing below the leading line. I would like to see it claim the Tenkan and Kijun back as support though. That's one knock against it, but you did have a bullish cross over here. So the price is not long enough for it to really form a true Ichimoku cloud. All you can see the beginning of the cloud over here that's coming in 2025. If you look at the weekly chart, instead of looking at the Ichimoku cloud, you just look at the weekly chart. I'd like to kind of clean this up for you. You can see that there are these big giant sell candles over here over the last few months. That looks like this is just a big giant, sell, how do you say that, big giant bearish momentum that's happening. Even the price doesn't really move really around that much. I want to show you something here that I'd like to kind of clean up some of these candles. If you look and see, there's something called the Higanashi candle, which is basically going to clean up things here. It's going to let you look and see what the trend actually is looking like. It summarizes the last candle or so to kind of basically average out the price action. And it gives a lot cleaner picture whether or not you're in an uptrend or whether or not you're in a downtrend. So if you look at this, something very interesting is happening when you actually summarize kind of like a couple of weekly candles together. You actually see a very, very nice thing here. You can see that the sell volume over here, ever since the top, it's just been capitulation. And the sell volume has just been going way down over here, right? As soon as found a lot of selling volume being exhausted over here, you start to have all these buying volume that start coming in. When you have buying volume coming in, the volume goes up, right? When you sell volume coming here, selling goes down, right? So it's really this is a perfect picture here to show you exhausting sellers and buyers coming in and trying to pick up the shares. Like, this is a very, very beautiful picture to show you that, right? Exhausting sellers, buyers come in, exhausting sellers, buyers come in, right? And exhausting sellers over here, I think we're kind of getting a little bit closer to, the end of the selling, the downtrend here. So far, this is like almost like a doji candle, which is an indecisive candle. It did close down as red based on the way it's being calculated, but overall the selling volume trends actually seem to be going down. And if you also look into something here, if you look at the bull market support band, you can also see that it's just been oscillating around here for closer to, almost more than half a year, almost to like a year or so. Just been kind of oscillating up and down here, building up with tons of energy right around here, forming a little bit of a symmetric, wedge over here, a little bit of indecision, if you will. This look really does remind me of, again, none of this has to play out, right? But this look really reminds me of Bitcoin. This look really does remind me of Bitcoin, where it's just kind of oscillating between the bull market support band, up and down. Spend a significant amount, maybe a couple of months below the bull market support band here before making this crazy move up. This was Bitcoin, right? There's no guarantee that SoFi is going to end up doing the same, but it's building a lot of energy over here. And I like, if you look at the Heigen Ashi candle, I like the buying volume, I like the selling volume. The way it looks, it does look like it's reaccumulation based on looking at this. And because of that, I do feel very favorable about it, because I also feel very favorable about the monthly trend too, as I showed you a couple of the other indicators earlier. I'm going to go back to the regular candles over here, and I'm also going to show you one last thing before moving on. The one last thing I want to show you is that the weekly bull trend is still intact. 20 is still above 50, is still above 100, and all three are still pointing up. You still have a pretty decent bull trend here. Price dropped below 20 and 50 and back tested 100 moving average, held, and now is slowly trying to bounce back above. I do see a pretty favorable trend here. We just need a little bit of volume to kind of keep things going. It does have a little bit of a bear flag over here though. But again, it did have a bear flag over here. It did have a bear flag over here. It did have a bear flag over here. This is just a personality of the stock, I think. They did have a bear flag over here. This is just a personality of the stock, though. I think, if anything, it just looks like it's kind of going a little bit sideways, trying to find some consolidation before pushing up higher. Of course, there's no guarantee. Of course, if it drops below, the technicals might break down, and none of these things I'm saying are true. But if you think about it, I also like the fundamentals of the stock too. If you think about this as just a bank, I mean, it's definitely overvalued. It's just had this it has an infancy of profitability. Just the last quarter, for the first time, actually turned profitable. It's overvalued if you just look at it as a bank. But if you look at it in many other aspects, it's the fastest growing bank with huge increase of users month over month. Is at the infant stages of profitability, which means that the trend is starting to turn and it can potentially accelerate rather quickly. There is a huge tech platform that has been talked about that I don't think is really taken into account or taken into consideration in terms of its valuation. There's huge short interest, which means that it doesn't really take a whole lot for a stock to pump if you end up having a short squeeze. And also, you also have a superstar CEO with Anthony Noto, which has a very, very strong pedigree. I feel very good about the stock. It makes me actually sleep pretty decent at night at these levels. So I'm going to keep buying more as long as the share is less than $8. I'll keep buying SoFi regardless if it's less than 14, but it's less than $8. I'm going to keep buying for sure. The video is getting a little bit long. I still talk a lot longer than I thought I would. I'm just going to tell you what my number 4 and number 5s are. My number 4 is Ethereum. I'm going to keep buying Ethereum as long as it's less than $4,000 per Ethereum coin. And my number 5 is actually going to be a lot more smaller cap altcoins. There are a few that I was going to go through, but I just don't have enough time. It's already over 30 minutes. But I might make a separate video to tell you a little bit more as to why I want to do that. I also have quite a few honorable mentions here too, which I might get to at some point. But thank you so much for listening. Again, my number 1, Cypher. I keep buying less than $5. CIFR is the ticker symbol. Number 2 is PayPal. Ticker symbol PYPL. I keep buying as long as it's less than 70. I might keep buying even if it's above that. Number 3 is SoFi. I keep buying as long as it's less than $8. as much as I can. If it's less than 14, I might still keep buying. Number 4 is Ethereum. Number 5 are some of the smaller altcoins that I would like to talk about in the future. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good one. Bye.